Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I read glitch in the Matrix stories, usually. Stories that are just strange. Now let's get right into it. Story title: a non-dramatic story from the north of England. Author name: bighairytrousers. This is not a dramatic or made-up story, I absolutely promise. It can be verified, or rather the history of the place can, and the story was told to me by a very straightforward English farmer. He was employed as an estate manager in the north of England, basically to manage a small sheep farm on behalf of a landowner. As part of the job, he was given the use of the house on the land. So he moved in with his wife. It was built on top of a crag, a small craggy hill with a steep drop on one side, and it was a typical 18th century farmhouse, remodeled in the 19th century. He had a few weird things happening. They heard footsteps approaching their bedroom door on several occasions, but when he jumped up to open the door, nothing was there. When he was in his tractor, he felt the steering wheel turn so that it moved towards the edge of the field and the steep drop below. He finally managed to wrestle the wheel back again and stop the tractor. Machinery error. He said not, and he was an expert tractor driver. His wife kept horses, and one day, her normally placid horse suddenly bolted to the edge of the crag, but she managed to fall off before it pitched her over the edge. It was wintertime, so no horseflies or loud noises that would account for the bolt. The horse never did it again, although she never rode in that field. There was a menacing feeling in the house, and their dogs would growl and shiver and refuse to go upstairs. The night before they left, they heard the same footsteps again, this time heavily stomping up the stairs, and their door handle started to shiver. The poor man had had enough and refused to get up this time, and the couple just kept the light on all night until it was morning and time to leave. The history of this farmhouse is fascinating. A husband from a local aristocratic family who suffered from psychosis lived in it with his wife and servants in the early 1900s. One day, they couldn't find his wife, and the husband came back home and told them he'd killed her in the woods at the back of the house. Using an adze, a sharp-edges agricultural tool like a hoe or ace, he lured her out to the woods by telling her the estate gardener wanted to show her the clearing he'd made, but he lay in wait for her and fractured her skull. When the police arrived, he was talking nonsense about a sacrifice to the gods and plunging the adze up and down in a bloody bucket of water. If you're from the north of England, you might be able to recognize the house from this snippet, as the local archives wrote about it on social media. Since then, the house has gone through a number of hands, with no more public ghost stories. However, about 5 years ago, I kid you not, it was bought by a religious group and became a Buddhist monastery and prayer retreat. I have no idea whether these stories are related, but I do know the estate manager was glad when his job was finished and he left the house behind. I hope the Buddhist monks have made the place more peaceful. Personal thoughts. So I would say that very violent, tragic, or emotional events in a person's history, I think they leave a sort of imprint or echo behind. Now how this manifests or how long it lingers for, that isn't always clear or linear. I also think that some people are more attuned to sensing this kind of echo, similar to birds sensing magnetic fields. So it really isn't a shock to hear that these Buddhists somehow found this place and made it a monastery. I guess they were drawn to it. It just fits. Second story. Story title: The strangest thing happened yesterday. Insane. Author name: Revolutionary Cut, 5210. Yesterday I decided to drive to the mall. The one I go to is massive, and it's circular. You can drive around it. It has a massive car park on one side. So all seems normal on my way to the mall with my girlfriend, who is still in shock as I am. To be honest, we haven't really spoken about it since. So as we get there, it looks really quiet. There's about 10 cars there. so I'm questioning whether or not it's open, which is really weird. We drive around to the other side just to see what's going on, and there's a few people about and a few cars, but nothing really. So we decided to go round back to the first side, where we normally park, and our plan is to walk to the entrance and see what's up. This is where it gets weird. As we pull up to the other side, the whole car park is full. There's literally people walking about everywhere. People sat outside having coffee. There was even 2 ambulances. So very, very weird. Me and my girlfriend were unbelievably shocked. We were just speechless. We literally sat in the car for 10 minutes just trying to get our heads around it. And I haven't felt right since. The time difference for driving around was maybe 2 minutes. It would have been physically impossible for all those cars and people to get there when just before it was almost completely empty. What the hell happened? Would love to hear your thoughts. It might help me feel like I've gone a bit less crazy. Edit. 1. You guys are asking if I'm sure I went to the same car park. I've been going to this place for years. It's a very basic layout. Imagine a football stadium but bigger. On either side, 2 outdoor car parks, 2 entrances, and at the top and bottom, 2 main roads. I'm 1000% sure it was the same car park. 2. People were saying that I should have filmed it and drove around again. I didn't even think about that, to be honest. I just sat there not really understanding what happened. Even now, I'm questioning myself, my sanity. The last thing I wanted to do was drive around the other way to see what happened then. Personal thoughts. So I believe you when you say that you've been to this mall so often that you wouldn't confuse directions or levels. But it's weird. I mean, it's like a parallel universe crossover, but there's no clear catalyst for what would cause that transition. Certainly not a quantum immortality scenario, because you are in no danger and don't remember dying in any way. And also, how would that even work if you're with someone else? Actually, that's a good question. Does quantum immortality, are you tethered to people close to you? Well, that's just a tangent. Doesn't really apply in this case. I don't know what happened here. Weirdly, I feel unsettled reading this. It seems rather innocuous. It's just people appearing at a mall, but I don't know. It almost feels like you saw a reality that shouldn't exist. Or at least a scene of it. And that concludes our stories for the night. I hope you enjoyed them. If you did, hit the like button and consider subscribing. I upload Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 p.m. EST. I'll see you there.